Hi everyone, Abuin89 here. I am developing games in my free time, and this is my first devlog. I want to show you Fisher's Isle, a 3D game that I am developing with Unreal Engine 4. Before I get back to Fisher's Isle, I want to say a few words of how I got into game development. I started being interested in programming when I was 14. Basically, I saw an advertisement of Dark Basic in a magazine and ordered it. The book that was with the CD helped me getting started. I was working on a very basic 2D fighting game and played around with the examples that shipped with the framework. After I played Vampire's Dawn, I got really into the whole RPG Maker thing. I liked it very much as it really allowed me to get something done. The scripting was very easy to pick up, but also rather limited at that time. I was working on a Harvest Moon clone, which was a lot of fun. The player was able to cook, feed his dog, plant and water seeds. Then I tried to add tractors to the game. The problem was that the sizes of the sprites were predefined, so I had to cut the tractor into 4 parts. I then tried to tie 3 sprites to the main one. I didn't manage to accomplish it, no matter what. I then decided to drop it as the tractors were main feature. A bit later I discovered the programming language Blitz. I made a simple chicken hunter clone in which you had to shoot at balloons. Every balloon that made it to the top of the screen took a life. After the end of every round, the player received some money, so that a better weapon can be bought in the shop. After this first success, I got quickly frustrated when I shared the game with some friends, and discovered that the UI and HUD would not fit the various screen resolutions. 4 years later I picked it up again, this time it was called Blitzmax. I successfully digitalized a simple paper game within 1 week and shared it with friends. However, they didn't play it for long, and exams kept me busy at that time. Last year in February I decided to give game development another go, as I had a lot of fun in the past. Also, I was very confident that my knowledge in math and programming will make the difference to my previous experience. I was looking for the right framework or engine, and found a lot of positive remarks about Godot. It is open source with its own programming language called GDScript, which is close to Python. I liked the showcase, so I downloaded it. Roughly 30 MB later I was already in the editor. Wow. The documentation was quite helpful and I found many tutorials online, so I got into it very quickly. I can especially recommend the Zelda-like tutorials series of Forglake, if anyone is interested in learning Godot. I then started to develop Brewclub Sim right away. It is a beer brewing simulator in retro pixel look. You start with little money and brewing equipment and slowly expand your brewery by crafting and selling beer. It's based on the story of our own brewery, and is also supposed to give the players a good idea of how craft beer is made. As I wanted to make all the assets myself, I started learning pixel art. I bought Asprite and a book called Pixel Logic, which helped me getting started. After some time I had a pixel version of our brewery. I broke down the development tasks into dozens of small pieces and worked on them one after another. Quickly the game became playable and looked exactly like I wanted. One of the key mechanics is that the player can carry around items in order to do the different steps necessary to brew beer. It took some time, but I managed to implement this feature, and that felt so good. The HUD and UI was straightforward too. Then I picked up shaders to have custom shadows, for which I got very positive feedback, so I decided to write a short how-to post on Reddit. The community of Godot is very active, welcoming and helpful, so I wrote a post every other time I implemented a new feature, which I thought could be helpful. I had some difficulties with the fake hide in 2D that I needed for the stacking mechanics of the crates. Although it worked quite well in the end, I couldn't help but think that I wouldn't face these problems in 3D. The same is true for shadows. I stumbled upon a blog of a fellow Godot dev, which got me really interested into the 3D development. After doing some 3D tutorials, I decided to put together a small scene inspired by Octopath Traveler. Although it looked appeasing, the sprites are either distorted, or if billboard mode is used, lean backwards, so that they face the camera. I ran into clipping issues when the sprites are close to walls. I learned that this is a common problem, which is often solved by decreasing the angle of the camera. It didn't look like the top-down game I had in mind anymore, so I played around with shaders, hoping that I can prevent the distortion of the sprites, while maintaining the perspective of the camera. I spent weeks on it without success. I learned that another solution is to tweak how the camera works. However, at that time this wasn't possible in Godot. This was the first time I learned that Godot is still a rather new engine. The feedback I received for a post of the 3D demo scene was very good, and people on Reddit said it looks much more appealing than the 2D version. The fact that this meant I either had to settle for the 2D version, which is said to be glanced over, or struggle with this problem, or change the perspective the game was designed for, frustrated me. But wait, I've had this idea for another game in my head since I resumed my game dev journey. Let's listen to the main theme composed for it by the very talented Hawken Davison while I pitch the idea to you. Fisher's Isle is a low-poly survival game. You start on an island equipped only with a fishing rod. Build a shelter for the nights, dive for treasure or pearls, but beware of the predators of the ocean. Sell your loot or grill the freshly caught fish to satisfy your hunger. Upgrade your equipment to dive down deeper equipped with flippers and a scuba suit, or explore the vast ocean with a new boat. Since I discovered a large interest for 3D development, especially after doing a short freelance project, I decided to pause working on Brewclub Sim and start with Fisher's Isle instead. I started learning Blender. There is a ton of good tutorials out there. I mostly use the ones from Grant Abbott. I made a first iteration of some assets and placed them in the editor. It was an amazing feeling walking around my own assets with a placeholder character. I read a lot of articles about water shaders and managed to implement Gerstner waves rather quickly. It was fun, but it didn't quite look as I wanted, so I dug deeper and found a paper from Jerry Tessendorf. In his method, the wave height is computed by transforming the height spectrum from the wave number space into the physical space. It is used in movies since the year 2000 and in some games. I implemented it in Godot using the FFTW library and C++ bindings to store the height and horizontal offset in a texture in real time. I was very happy with the look of the new shader, but something shut down my early excitement very quickly. Performance. I was also thinking about alternatives, such as pre-compute the height map and such, but also thought about switching engines, as I read that one needs compute shaders to do FFT on the GPU, which is currently not supported in Godot. I made a controversial post on Reddit in which I had some interesting discussions. I ended up taking a closer look at Unreal Engine 4. I liked it very much, and it has some advantages over Godot with respect to 3D development. Therefore, I decided to stick with UE4 for now. I really love Godot, and it wasn't an easy call to switch engines. I am following the development of Godot 4, as I want to try it out once it's finished. Also, I still plan to use Godot for Brewclub Sim, because for 2D it's excellent. Anyway, that's how I ended up with Unreal. In hindsight, I think it was the right decision, especially now with the recent updates and most notably the changed licensing terms of Epic. Now let's talk about Fisher's Isle. So far I spent roughly 6 months on it. This might sound like a lot, but keep in mind I can only work on it in my free time. 2 months of that were put into the water shader. Also, I basically had to learn 2 engines, as I haven't really used Godot's 3D part before. On top of that, I spent some time to learn Blender and Substance, which I use to texture my assets. Anyway, I am very happy with the result. It took a few iterations until I achieved the visuals that I had in mind. As you can hopefully tell by now, the idea is that every object is a toy, except for the water and the sand, basically like playing with toys in a sand pit. I also took inspiration from the LEGO games. Since I have mainly focused on the visuals so far, I cannot show you many mechanics at this stage. But I have now reached a good basis to work on it. I will texture the remaining assets like the pier and the chest, and then work on the dive mechanics, which will be based on a transition to the side view. I hope you enjoyed my first devlog. If you want to support the development of Fisher's Isle, I would be very happy if you like this video and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Twitter or join my Discord server. I am happy about any feedback about Fisher's Isle or the devlog, because I am planning to make more videos in this style.